Assalamu alaikum, dears, how are you? So often, the human being remains unhappy because they say that she has not treated me fairly, and I felt quite unhappy, quite hurt, sometimes even traumatic as well. Why does it happen? Is there any way to somehow protect ourselves from a situation like this one? It does happen, first of all, because we are emotionally dependent upon other people. Dependence of any sort, it's not good at all. As for the emotional dependence is concerned, it makes a person even more sensitive, more vulnerable, and hence it makes it really, really important to become somewhat emotionally independent. Why it is so important? What are the benefits of it? How can we do it? This is the topic of our discussion today. Let's begin it from the definition of being emotionally independent. Emotional independence is the ability to manage one's emotions, make decisions, and take care of oneself without excessive reliance on others. It is really the definition itself is so important, so important. Let me repeat: the ability to manage one's emotions, the ability to make decisions, and the ability to take care of oneself without excessive reliance on others is called emotional independence. Once we have defined it, let's move forward to the characteristics of it. There are some characteristics, 8 in number. What are these? Self awareness on the one hand, being self aware. What are my weaknesses and what are my strengths? What are my resources and what are my lackings? So, what are my experiences to what extent I've learned? Every important aspect of ourself, that is called self awareness. Knowing it is called self awareness. The second characteristic of emotional independence is self regulation. We need to regulate ourselves. Like there is dimmer with the electric fans, remote control of the air conditioner or the television and others, we need to learn how to regulate ourselves. Those who have succeeded in it, this is a characteristic of it. The third characteristic of this emotional independence is autonomy. These people are more autonomous, much, much more than the ordinary people, the people around them. The fourth characteristic of emotional independence is resilience. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail. Sometimes we feel happy, at certain other times we stumble, we suffer a setback. But it's the resilience actually which keeps us afloat. We bounce back. Don't give up at all. Do not give up at all. Do not, it does not, the failure, the setbacks does not weaken our resolve to keep going in the pre-decided direction. That is resilience. The fifth characteristic of emotional independence is confidence. These people are much more confident as compared to other people. The sixth characteristic of emotional independence is healthy boundaries. Boundaries means the rules and the regulations. Boundaries means the rules and the regulations. Not a freestyle business at all. We have certain values. We have certain boundaries to take care of. We need to respect the boundaries of other people, but at the same time, we need to assert our own boundaries as well. Up to this extent, you are allowed, and not beyond that at all, because my boundary is boring you. Setting reasonable, healthy boundaries. The seventh characteristic of emotional independence is the self-motivation. These people remain self-motivated, much lesser dependent upon the external motivation. Does not mean that they refuse it. They are seeking the external motivation, the inspiration, the training, but primarily they are self-motivated. The eighth and the last characteristic of emotional independence, it is the adaptability. The life is there are ebbs and flows of the life, the ups and the downs of the life. Circumstances keep changing, situation keep changing, but these people, they are quite adaptable. The change in the circumstances does not stop them from moving forward, they don't stop working. They don't even get much disturbed mentally as well, since the circumstances and the situation have changed. So these are the 8 major characteristics of emotional independence. Now, another question is that benefits of what are the benefits of emotional independence? So there are many, but seven are the very considerable important benefits of emotional independence. The first benefit is increased self-esteem. Self-esteem is the most precious commodity ever. Anybody lacking the self-esteem is not rich at all. Everybody having a good amount of self-esteem is rich. So the first benefit of emotional independence is increased self-esteem. The second major benefit of emotional independence is better decision making. Since they are emotionally independent, they have more and better ability to make decisions. The third major benefit of emotional independence is improved relationships. The relationships are more better, more healthy. The fourth major benefit of emotional independence is enhanced problem solving ability. They are more capable of solving their problems. The fifth benefit of emotional independence is greater sense of freedom. Greater sense of freedom. They are more free, have more freedom, more autonomous. The sixth benefit of emotional independence is reduced stress and anxiety. They suffer from much lesser mental stress and anxiety because they are up to great extent emotionally independent. The seventh benefit of emotional independence is increased emotional intelligence. They are more emotionally intelligent. As you know that being more emotionally intelligent means being much better in the life. We talked about the definition of emotional independence. We talked about the characteristics of emotional independence. Thirdly, we talked about benefits of emotional independence. Now we are going to talk about the signs of emotional independence. The first sign of emotional independence is you make decisions without seeking validation from others. You make decisions about your life without seeking validation from others. The second sign and symptom of emotional independence is you manage emotions without external support. You manage your emotions without external support. The third sign and symptom of emotional intelligence is you prioritize self care. To you, your self care is important. Self care is not being selfish at all. Because if at all we are not taking care of ourselves, we will not be able to serve the other people better as well. So you prioritize self care. The fourth sign and symptom of emotional independence is you set healthy, reasonable boundaries. Setting healthy, reasonable boundaries, not a limitless interference or advances of other people in your life. Rather, everything else has a limit. So we respect the boundaries of other people. At the same time, assert, implement our own boundaries. Don't allow to anybody to step over, to violate our boundaries. Now, the fifth sign and symptom of this emotional independence is you take responsibility for your mistakes. You take responsibility for your mistakes. Taking responsibility. Do not blame others for the mistakes you have done. obviously not intentionally, not deliberately. The sixth sign and symptom of emotional independence is you are comfortable with your solitude. You are comfortable with your solitude. You are not afraid of being alone at all. Not being afraid to be alone at all. The seventh and the last sign and symptom of emotional independence is you are open to constructive feedback. You are open to constructive feedback. Feedback helps us, a constructive feedback helps us develop, move forward, make advances toward your goals. We are talking about emotional independence. We talked about its technical definition, its characteristics, its benefits, its signs and symptoms. Now we are going to talk about how to achieve emotional independence. There are 8 ways. The first way is practice self-reflection. Reflect every every experience you have done, reflect upon it. Learn whatever you can, then let it go. The second way to achieve emotional independence is develop self-awareness. We need to be better aware about ourselves. What are my weaknesses? What are my strengths? What are my resources? What are lackings in my life? Ability to know and to understand every aspect of your life, your psyche, your mindset. That is self-awareness. To be emotionally independent, we need to set healthy, reasonable boundaries. To be able to become an emotionally independent person, we need to cultivate self-care habits. Cultivation of self-care habits, making it a routine. The fifth way to become an emotionally independent person is learn emotional regulations. We need to learn how to regulate my emotions. What are my emotions? What of these are usually active? Either these are negative, positive. Which one is the positive? Which one is the negative? Which makes me more vulnerable? How to regulate it? Not eliminate, but how to regulate it. Now, the sixth way to become an emotionally independent person is develop, learn, practice problem solving skills. The seventh way to become an emotionally independent person is seek sportive relationships. Seeking of sportive relationship, not just one, the more the better, but only sportive, constructive, healthy relationships with just one condition, that is, I need constructive feedback from you. I don't want any sort of toxicity from you. The eighth and the last way to become an emotionally independent person is enhanced challenges and failures, embracing the challenges, embracing the failures, embracing the setbacks, because we take it as the best teacher, as the best mentor, as the best coach. We have talked about the clear definition of being emotionally independent, characteristics of emotional independence, benefits of emotional independence, sign and symptoms of emotional independence, how to achieve the emotional independence. Now we are going to talk about the challenges we do have to face on our way to becoming an emotionally independent person. There are seven challenges. There are seven hurdles, seven problems. The first one is the fear of abandonment inside our own mind. We have to overcome it. The second challenge or the hurdle is need for validation. The third hurdle and the challenge is codependency. The fourth hurdle or challenge on our way to becoming an emotionally independent person, it is the low self-esteem sometimes. We have to manage it. The the fifth challenge, the fourth challenge was low self-esteem. The fifth challenge on our way to becoming an emotionally independent person, it is the trauma. The sixth challenge on our way to becoming an emotionally independent person, it is social pressure. Why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? Particularly from the closer people. When everybody is doing this, why you have chosen the different way? The seventh challenge or the hurdle on our way to becoming an emotionally independent person is the fear of uncertainty. Fear of uncertainty. We put forward the seven challenges, the seven hurdles which we might come across on our way to becoming an emotionally independent person. Now, in the next segment, we are going to talk about, we are going to present the seven strategies to overcome challenges, the seven strategies to overcome these seven challenges, these seven hurdles. First of all, seek therapy or counseling if you feel the need of it. If at all you are becoming weak, you are afraid, seeking therapy or counseling. The second strategy to overcome the challenges on our way to becoming an emotionally independent person. The second strategy, that is practice mindfulness and self-compassion. Mindfulness means the exercises of deep breathing, the exercise of meditation, focusing on the present moment without any sort of judgment, not to dwell in the past. So these are the exercises of mindfulness. Also, self-compassion as well. We have to be kind-hearted with ourselves. So practice mindfulness and self-compassion. That is the second strategy to overcome the challenges which we have to face on our way to becoming an emotionally independent person. The third strategy to overcome these challenges, it is build a supportive network. The fourth strategy to overcome these challenges is engaging in the self-care activities. Self-care activities like having a sleep of 7 to 8 hours every night, providing ourselves with the right sort of nutrition, sparing the time for any sort of exercise, and of course certain other taking rest and breaks. So these are the self-care activities. We have to build a sportive network, so important, even if at all it comprises fewer people, but it is important to have a sportive network of the people. The fifth strategy to overcome the challenges, it is assertiveness skills. Developing assertiveness skills mean being determined, being confident, insisting resolutely. So that is developing assertiveness skills. The sixth strategy to overcome these challenges, it is learn to say no. Learning to say no. That is a very important skill. That is a very important skill indeed. Because if at all we don't say no politely but firmly, I think later on we have to suffer a lot. So never hesitate, never budge to say no. Now, the seventh strategy to overcome these challenges on our way to becoming an emotionally independent person, it is focus on personal growth. Focusing on personal growth mean growing as far our career, our profession is concerned, that is fine. But if at all we are not growing personally, I think that is a bigger lacking. So these are the seven strategies which are meant for overcoming the challenges, overcoming the hurdles and the difficulties once we are trying to become an emotionally independent person. Now, I think that we need to understand what are the resources from where I can help, I can seek help. So there are five, 6 ways. 6 ways. One is mindfulness exercises like meditation, like deep breathing, and etc. The second, it is self compassion exercises. What is this self compassion? Every time we fail, every time we suffer a setback, I think we need to console ourselves, comfort ourselves, instead of making us ourselves the target of a harsh criticism or a very harsh accountability. It is important to practice the self compassion, although at the same time we need to learn whatever we can learn. The third resource, for becoming an emotionally independent person, it is the emotional intelligence quizzes. Mean we should be able to know well what is the emotional intelligence and answering certain questions, certain multiple choice questions. So that is emotional intelligence quizzes. Now the third resource, it is boundary setting worksheets, reasonable, healthy boundary setting worksheets. The fourth resource is self-care applications available on the smartphone, on the computer. One such application is Headspace, another such application is Calm, CLM Calm, and I believe there will be certain other as well. The fifth resource on our way to becoming an emotionally intelligent person, it is online therapy. Online therapy platforms. There are certain platforms for the online counseling, for the online therapy. Remember, emotional intelligence is a journey. Emotional intelligence is a journey and not a destination at all. Remember, self awareness is the key. Remember, boundaries are essential. Healthy, reasonable boundaries are essential. Remember, self care is crucial. If at all we don't take care of ourselves, who else is going to do that? So it make it a priority. The fifth thing to remember is emotional independence, empowers in every way, even in our relationships, every way is this emotional independence empowers us. Now cultivate emotional intelligence to live a more authentic and empowered life. If you want to live a more authentic and more empowered life, what is needed here, that is to practice emotional independence. That is all from me today. I think we have talked in length about all that. Firstly, we talked about its definition, the definition of becoming an emotionally independent person. Secondly, we talked about its characteristics. Thirdly, we talked about its benefits. Fourthly, we talked about the signs and the symptoms of emotional independence. Now, fourth, how we talked about how to achieve emotional independence. The fifth is challenges to emotional independence, and now the strategies to overcome challenges. Now, lastly, we talked about resources and certain points to remember. So that was a very useful discussion of today. Thank you very